Welcome to Table Talk, where each week I unpack ideas and insights from Christian theology and spirituality that help you become a more thoughtful, calm, and just a downright great human being. So my name is Brett, pastor at the Table, a church in Saxe, Texas, and today this will be a little more raw table talk than usual. I'm just going to kind of go off the cuff here, but I've just had a lot of things kind of floating around in my mind, and I want to unpack kind of something I see happening just in the last, maybe 10 days. And it's around the coronavirus, and it kind of has to do with our culture. And basically, just to kind of jump to the end, I think it seems like we are beginning to opt for herd immunity when it comes to the coronavirus. And I think we're doing that kind of from a gut reaction and from a false kind of binary, like an either or option that we feel like we have two bad options. Either we opt for herd immunity, aka just kind of let this virus pass through and, roll the dice. Or we stay at home for 5 years. And I got that quote, that number, 5 years. It's actually something President Trump said at his news conference on Tuesday to a reporter's question. And he basically said, look, like we can't shut down America. We can't all stay at home for 5 years. And I mean, of course, that's true. But I think what that's doing is feeding this sort of either or, this binary, as though those are our two options. Either herd immunity, like just we got to reopen America. I mean, we just got to, sure, the numbers are still going up in 41 of this, or I don't know how many states. I mean, there's roughly 41 states opening, and I think either all or almost all, maybe all but like Montana and Alaska and certain places, very rural places, the numbers are flat or increasing. And yet we're just like, we just can't stay home forever, or let her rip. That's sort of Texas right now. Like, we're like, and I know that our governor, he has certain ways to look at the numbers, like, but overall tests. But at the end of the day, the slope of positive rates in Texas is it's flat or kind of like this in the last week, just slightly ticking upwards. And it's like, what are we doing? Now, you say, but, again, these are our options. And I'm like, no, these are not our options. In fact, this is what I was shocked to find. Like, now I've been following a guy, Tomas Puello, I think is how you say his name. Wonderful. He's done such good research on this. I've posted his links many times, but you can look up his article, The Hammer and the Dance. Excellent. So there's a lot of people who are saying, like, look, it's pretty clear the path forward. You don't have to go, like, opt for these binaries. Either, there's nothing we can do, just, let it run out, herd immunity, or stay at home forever. Like, no, it's very clear the path. Like, massive testing, intense tracing in terms of once someone's identified as positive, okay, who did you interact with, look at cell phone records and things to see what stores they visit, that's the way. And this is lots of other countries, dozens and dozens of other countries have done this and are beginning to reopen in a safe way because that's the path. Like, this is what's mind-boggling, is it's actually not like, we have no idea what to do. We do have an idea. Now, you could say, that's other countries and it's different and I don't even know your sources, Brad. Okay, let's go this. Go to whitehouse.gov/opening America. And there you have a plan from the White House on how to open America. And it's not either, herd immunity, play it out, or, geez, you gas guzzler. All right, that's another video. All right, so it's not herd immunity or just stay at home forever. It's not. Like, it's very reasonable. And basically it just lays out kind of a 3-phase plan. And you say, okay, how do we get there? Well, one of the key requirements, I think, again, this is very reasonable, is they say before a state begins to reopen, what we would like to see is 14 days of falling numbers. So a downward trajectory. 14 days of a decrease in flu-like symptoms. 14 days of a decrease in COVID-like symptoms and cases. 14 days of falling positive test rates as a percentage of total tests done, and so, right? Just in other words, 14 days of this. Like that's the angle. It's pretty simple. Like just when the numbers start going like that, and not like that for a day and then back up. No. 14 days like that. Then you can enter phase 1. And phase 1 is like, okay, limit gatherings to 10 people. And if you can work from home. But if you can't, wear a mask and social distance as heavily as possible, right? And it lays it out very logically, very clearly. And reading through it, like, it's a good plan, solid. And yet, here's what's fascinating, is all the states reopening aren't doing that. And I think it's because we've reached this point, right, in our brains of it's either we stay at home forever or herd immunity. And so, look, even though we don't want to say it out loud, it's kind of like, I just can't stay home anymore. I just can't do this anymore. And so we're just sort of foolishly, I think, reopening. Now, maybe that's an exaggeration. We're not just literally, well, here's the thing, right? Like the states are saying, well, within reason, and we're going to try to limit it. But what people are hearing is, oh, thank God, we can just kind of be done. Because our messaging is super ambiguous, because we don't see 14 days of falling numbers, and it looks like it's going to be a hot mess. So, okay, what do we do with this? I think I'll just kind of put it like this. Hey, look, as followers of Jesus, if you consider yourself that, if not, believe what you want to believe, you're off the hook. But for followers of Christ, he pretty clearly says, love your neighbor, especially your sick neighbor, your weaker neighbor, your poorer neighbor. Care for your neighbors, right? It's not just me, it's we. Right? And this is just a clear teaching of Jesus. And if that's so, and if we have other possibilities and other ways of reopening that aren't just opting for herd immunity, then as followers of Christ, that's the path we have to choose. Like this should not be a moral option for followers of Christ to just, throw open the floodgates in a foolish way. And that's not to minimize people's economic suffering, economic hardships. Because again, I'm not saying stay closed for forever, right? Obviously, that's not an option. But on the reverse side, we don't want to see millions and millions and millions of people die. And that's potentially what we're facing. The death rate in New York, for example, was around 7%, like 333,000 cases, and 22,000-ish deaths. 6-7%. That's a huge concern. Like, we don't want to see that play out over. And I think Governor, I don't know how to say his last name, Cuomo, I've only seen it written down, but I think how he put it was really wise, where someone was basically saying, like, look, we have a lot of people suffering, on the economic side, on the depression, anxiety side, like staying in, at home and all that. And he just kept asking, is that worse than death? Like, is that worse than people dying? And I think his point holds, that as much all that stuff matters, but it's not to the extreme of, 3, 5, 6, 10 million people in the U.S. dying. Not worth it. So all that to say, not my most plucky, encouraging table talk, but it's as truthful as I can be. So I love you lots, you guys. Feel free to chime in below in the comments, your own thoughts. I can't promise I'll respond to everything, but you are free to push back as you'd like, or agree if that's where you are. So anyway, love you. I'll chat with you later.